We keep things rolling here on the Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, and oh my goodness, do we have a treat for you. If the Olympics have ended, if baseball is getting so close to postseason, if we can see hockey and basketball around the corner, that means, my friends, Hard Knocks is on television. Football is on television. That means your cell phone has a lot of fun going on with your certain apps. And to help us be a little bit smarter, is one of the smartest people we've had the pleasure to talk with. He is from Doc's Sports Service and everywhere else in the universe to make us smarter, to be a conduit of good for us, is our friend, Raphael Esparza. Raphael, welcome in, my friend. How are you?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me. Like I said, I saw the email come through and like Chicago, of course I'm going to make some time to jump on the Chicago Airways.
So it is one of these interesting times. Let's say when we get this time of year, right, where you have the Olympics, where you have Major League Baseball, where you have even Formula One or NASCAR or anything else in between. How much of a busy time is it for you as we get to these times where it may not be the most popular of the sports, but it is a jam-packed summertime?
Well, for me, it's funny how you say that because everyone says, "Oh, football's here. You're probably going to be super busy." No, I've been super busy all summer long because not only did we have the Olympics, we had Euro Cup, we had a lot of soccer tournaments, we had the Gold Cup, we had baseball coming in. So it's for me, it's a 365-day job. It's not just because the pigskin kicked off, college football is here, NFL's here. It's the busiest time. No, it's not the really busiest time. November is the busiest time because now you have football, NBA tipped off, college basketball tipped off. They're dropping a puck on the ice. So it's just not because the pigskin dropped in NFL is here in college football. For me, my job is 365 days a year, and I try to stay the same busy all year round.
And is the fan interaction any different when it comes to it? Like, do you feel, because obviously, at least here for me personally, when it comes to football season, when it comes to the NFL, I am all over it. It is the thing that I from Monday through Friday and then Saturday and Sunday, it's all I think about. But obviously, there are people who have enjoyment in all these different types of sports. Do you feel like that fervor, that fandom when it comes to the sports fans, even for the summer bet season for the game 120 for the Chicago Cubs?
Oh yeah, nothing surpasses football excitement. And I know like I said, I don't want to bash it, but football is creme of the creme when it comes into my industry. So yeah, when football is here, the excitement is all over. For betting wise, I tell people if you really want to take advantage of betting wise, bet to other sports when football is playing because the odds makers are not focused on the Detroit Tigers maybe playing on a Saturday on a full day of college football or Sunday baseball. Let's say the Sunday night baseball game, and let's say it's a really good NFL game on Sunday night. They're really not concentrating on that Sunday baseball game. So if you want to make a little bit extra, look at maybe some soft numbers, look at the sports that are playing the same time as creme of the creme football is, because some of the odds makers may be sleeping at the wheel because they're watching all the money coming in on football.
So with the amount of fervor and the amount of excitement, the knowledge has grown from the average sports fan. And I think that is something that's interested me because there's so many resources like yourself that people go on social media and learn about making the proper bets or when to bet or what to look for between the lines. And we're going to get into some of that in a second, but has that surprised you? Being as long as you've done this, as much as you've seen it grown, to see how much the average fan has kind of grown along with the betting industry, with the sports industry. Has that been a big surprise for you? The knowledge that has been gained by the average person?
The knowledge, yes, but you're always going to get two-way action, no matter how much knowledge someone's going to read. If you're studying the Bears game and they're playing the Packers, and you got one guy studying the Bears statistics left and right, there's another guy doing the same thing on the other side with the Packers, probably the Packers side because the Packers own the Bears forever. No offense, Chicago. But I would say you're always going to have two-way action. And as an odds maker, that's what we're looking for, just two-way action to try to balance the books up. As a handicapper, you're looking for that number. I always say I'm always searching for that number, even though let's say the books have -7 and I thought it should be like maybe 7.5 or 8. I'm waiting to see what that number does. I'm waiting to see what the public does with it so I can get my number. If I don't get my number, then I take a pass at it, or I watch the game and wait for live betting numbers come out so I can get that better number. So yes, the knowledge from everyone has gotten better, including myself, because we have so many. I remember back in the day in the 90s when I was working at Caesar's Palace Sportsbook, well, we used to have to call like the racetracks for the results, or call to see, hey, were you at the Bears practice? Was so and so limping? Was so and so even there? Like back then, we would make phone calls and phone calls and phone calls. Now it's just right click, copy, paste, post.
So let's dive into that a little bit. Your background, how you've been doing this, and we're joined by Raphael Esparza. He's all over the universe. He's doing amazing work over at Doc Sports and Services. And I think you were mentioning before we jumped on mic behind the scenes of kind of the bones that you've collected, how you've cut your teeth, and what are the cool terminology that people in the industry use to describe how long they've been doing it. So for the folks here in Chicago, this is your second city. You love Chi-Town, and this is something that you're great at. How did you jump into this field? What are your credentials? What is something that people in Chicago who love sports, who love to learn things, want to find their dude, their guy? What is it what have you learned over your ventures and some of the things you've done over your career?
Yeah, I started in 97, 98 at Caesar's Palace, probably one of the mecca of sports books, which was the first sports book to put a sports betting prep at. And when the Bears won a Super Bowl, will William Perry score a touchdown, which we are still mad at the Chicago Bears for not giving the ball to Walter Payton and wait, because we got crushed on that prop bet, but come on, Walter Payton should have scored a touchdown in that game. But yeah, I worked for Caesar's Palace, and then I went over to MGM and worked for MGM Mirage for many years. Opened up Aria Racing Sportsbook, the new casino at the time when I left. But yeah, I worked there for 15 Super Bowls. Like I said, we don't count years when you're working in a sports book; you count Super Bowls. So I worked 15 Super Bowls in there. So yeah, I think that's why I think it makes my job a lot easier, because I see both sides. I've been in the back of the industry and I've been in front of the industry. I've been at the pay window and behind the pay window. So I've seen two-way action on both sides, what the books need or what the player needs. So I think that gives me a little bit edge than most people, because I can still make phone calls and call almost every sports director and say, hey, Raphael, hey, what's going on? What do you guys need? What are you guys seeing? And they'll give me the truth.
Go to docsports.com. All the links, amazing stuff that goes on over there, some real deep dives into some information. And if you want to get that edge, if you're trying to be a little bit ahead of the game, or at the very least, you just broaden your horizon when it comes to being a sports fan and these new terminologies in this new world we're living in, it's a great resource. And so is Raphael Esparza. It's been an awesome guest here on the Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, here on WCPT 820 AM, Heartland Signal, Sports from the Couch. And Raphael, let's go into this a little bit. I was looking into some tax information and how each state is bringing in its own revenue. And here in Illinois, as you know, it's fairly new comparative to like Las Vegas and all these other like meccas when it comes to sports gambling. When the team was doing these type of informations, when you're looking at these type of numbers, what surprised you the most when you saw the amount of revenue to each state individually when it came to sports gambling, whether it was a state that might have generated more money than you would have thought or less money than you would have thought? And what does that say about the sports fan or the person who likes to put a little bit of action in the game when you saw some of these numbers?
Well, first of all, I think some of the numbers are totally wrong what the public sees, because they're usually talking about net win. They're not talking about what the casino or what the books still have to pay on taxes, still have to pay on employees. Let's say DraftKings, who has the sports book at Wrigley Field, which I declined on that job. I was going to maybe interview for it because that would be my dream job to work at Wrigley Field. But money was just wrong. But that's another story. They don't talk about, okay, yeah, the books won X, Y, and Z that month, but you still have to pay the employees. You don't know how much direct TV deals are to get to show every NFL game, to show every baseball game. You don't even want to know what that bill looks like. So yeah, they always say, oh, the sports books won X, Y, and Z, but then that X, Y, and Z is not minus the taxes that you owe the state, minus the employees, or minus so much other stuff that you have to pay out. So I wish they would report the real actual number after all said and done, taxes paid, employees paid, whatever, what the sports book, because then people are like, wow, maybe sports is not the biggest money maker. Because if you want to make a lot of money, you buy a penny slot and you put it in your front yard and you'll be a millionaire by the end of the week.
I think that's a great analogy. That's a great way of putting it. But I guess that just goes to show, and a question I asked earlier is like how smart, how much more educated the average fan is, the average gambler is. And then when you actually dig even deeper, there's even more information, so much more it goes deeper into this type of field that the numbers could even be deceiving. I guess that's the case for anything, right? Where we can make numbers say anything. But let's say in an election year, like this year, it was such a huge, high profile one. How would sports books, whether onshore, offshore, however you wanted to declare it, how would they put betting odds on Kamala versus Trump? How would they have done it Biden versus Trump? Like, yeah, how would this go?
I've done betting odds for election. This will be my third president election. And I've said this a million times since we're getting close. Election week is about 10 to 15 times the amount of money than one Super Bowl is. So the amount of money, and you can't even bet here in the States. I'm talking worldwide, because worldwide, this is probably one of the biggest betting events that this coming election will be. It is crazy how much money comes in on our election. I can't say England and Ireland because I'd never done that trading part, but I traded last election, Trump versus Biden, and I've never seen anything like it in my life. And I've worked Vegas Super Bowls, 15 of them in Las Vegas, and I thought those were crazy days. Not even close. So that's why I think the states are missing out on election betting, entertainment betting, and stuff like that. Because when you're a sportsbook, you're lucky to hold maybe 5 to 6% on a day. That's nothing. 5 to 6% is nothing when you look at table games, slot machines, and all that, what they're holding. 5 to 6% is nothing. But if you can get someone to stay in your book and say, hey, you know what? I'm watching the Oscars, I'm watching the MTV Music Awards or stuff like that you can bet on. Now food and beverage is getting money because they're sitting there. They're going to probably want to drink. They kind of want to eat when they're out there. I mean, you want to keep them at your establishment. So I just don't understand why the U.S. has so many regulations when it comes to betting. You don't have to say, oh, I'm going to put $100,000 on the Oscars or on the election. You can have limits on it. You just need them to stay in your establishment to help other things around the establishment, restaurants, food and beverage, hotels, whatever, stuff like that. So, but like I said, one of these days, I think the U.S. will take a look at that and say, hey, you know what? Everyone else is doing it. Why not us? So, but it's so much different. So president election betting is the beast. I'm not looking forward to it. I already promised a book that I would help a lot this year, and it's. I think this one's going to be a beast.
So in that mindset, like I remember hearing a story about the WWE looking into getting into sport, putting their name into sports betting. And then the regulations would have to be that they would have to put the winners into the system or to whoever the regulating body is 4 hours before the event or whatever the case may be. How would that work in an election where we know that it's going to go into the night? In some cases, it's denied and it's not. Some people don't think it actually happened. How would the sports books, and I know this is a loaded question, you'd be a billionaire if you were able to fix it, but how would we even start to think how would we have handled 2020? You know?
First of all, a result is a result. We see it in boxing all the time. Look at Ryan Garcia. His last fight, he won. And then 2 weeks later, failed drug tests, and they gave him the winner. Well, we're not going to refund all those people who lost on Ryan Garcia and stuff like that. A result is a result. A, you can do it that way. B, you put a cap on limits. I'll say WWE. I've done WWE betting. I just did research. I'm working on a project of over 20 years of WrestleMania betting odds that I have done. So that's a project that I'm working on. That's another story. But now, back then, we'll take the Undertaker when he broke Brock Lesnar. They fought in the back for hours. Vince McMahon did not want Undertaker losing. Undertaker's, hey, I'm getting older, blah, blah, blah. I need to pass the torch on. So they went back and forth. They did not find out who was going to win that match. They did 5 different endings all week long. They did not find out that match until they were walking in the ring. Most of these big pay-per-views, they don't find out who's winning until they walk in and win. Now, the whole week, they're practicing on 3 or 4 different endings. So hey, they say, hey, we're doing ending A or ending B or stuff like that. Again, if you're not going to put do you guys know the results? Well, then $50 max bet or $100 max bet. You're not going to break the book if you just want your customers to sit there and watch it and bet $100 or $50 to keep them in your establishment. And if they win, you send an email out and say, hey, you know what? Congratulations on your $50 rock bet against Roman Reigns. Don't forget the Bears are 100 to 1 to win a Super Bowl, or don't forget the Bears are playing this Sunday, or don't forget the Cubs are. You can add that email. I can guarantee you they're going to look at that winnings and say, "Ooh, I forgot the Cubs are playing tomorrow." Hit that link and bet. And now they're betting the Cub games, the money they won against that wrestling event.
And it makes me wonder what the line, how it would have been moving from January 1st all the way till April with The Rock and that storyline, how a field day you guys would have had trying to just money line this thing over and over again.
It was in Vegas, and we had the line out already. And I was at that press conference because I do some stuff with some former WWE guys. I do odds and I do some shows with them. And it was funny how we had to totally redo the odds and stuff like that because we were hearing different types of storylines. Just like this year, we're going to have different types of storylines. Right now, it's already have my odds ready to go for that. So it's very interesting. It keeps me on my toes.
Well, I can't wait. We'll have you back on definitely for 41 in Vegas because that is a must. And, there's plenty of Caleb Williams sucks. But before we get to the future, let's stay in the present. Let's say in an election year, Raphael, this is something that one of my co-hosts, Paul Chivari, brought up. And it's something Devin, one of our other co-hosts, have always talked about is Illinois became legal to gambleize. And we know legalized marijuana and just the country, the way it's all going and how a lot of this is used during political season to help win elections. What do you think right now when I ask you, what is the next state that doesn't have legal sports gambling that you can have your FanDuel, your DraftKings, your all the Bet Rivers, whatever you want to Circa? What do you think is the next state that would surprise you, or at least has never really been one of these states that we thought would happen that would bring in legalized gambling?
I would say the last two states could be probably California and Mickey Mouse, Florida. But don't keep an eye out for California because now the tribals, the Indians, have Hard Rock there, and you can bet sports in there. Would not shock me if California does that and say, hey, you know what? They have more tribal casinos in California than have Florida. They switched that one. I'm a little bit shocked that Texas hasn't done anything. But I think one of the Carolinas might fold through. Missouri might fold in a little bit more extra stuff. So it's wide open right now. But at the same time, I think some states are seeing that it's not the biggest cash cow as they originally thought it would be. I think placement of where you put your establishment. If you're going to open up a casino, I mean, I'll put you guys an example. DraftKings having one at Wrigley Field. Brilliant. But if you're going to have one and not an establishment close to an arena or close to something big like a downtown area, it's not going to do well. You need something that piggybacks with that sports book, bars, great restaurants, and stuff like that. So if there's a game, maybe it's not even your team, but if let's say TNT Thursday and NBA and stuff like that, the bars are doing something different. You can all interact and all work together to keep your establishment having people in.
Raphael, it's interesting because you just made me think a light bulb in my head where it was like, oh, wait a minute. It's not like there's some wide receivers who are quarterback proof. Casino sportsbooks are not location proof. Like they do need real estate, I guess, does be location. Even in that case, right, where it's a multi-billion-dollar thing, location matters. And I think a lot of sports fans don't understand the minute of this type of business, how important it is to be at Wrigleyville, where you have a sports book that's open throughout that time, and you have people just going to the Cubby Bear or Murphy's or whatever, and like, oh, I'll make this $10 bet. You get enough of those, it's going to make your money back. I think that's a fascinating thing that I've never thought about. But talking about making us a little bit more educated, the last one for somebody who's here to make us smart, and you could check out all the work over at Doc Sports. And like you said, he's done it. Undertaker may have had the 21 WrestleManias. You have 15 Super Bowls. Okay, that's impressive. All right, my man. Breaking it all down, it's Raphael Esparza. Last one for you. When it comes to sports betting for the average fan, I'm a sucker for the parlay. I'm a sucker for the same
Thank
game.
You pay my wife's Amazon bill, so thank you for your parlays.
So, and this is one of the things, right? There's people like me who know I'm paying to lose money, to be angry every Sunday, and for the Amazon account to get paid for. But for the person who doesn't understand the trap of the same game parlays or the 16 game parlay that you're hoping that the Texans are going to win, and damn it, if the Browns didn't screw you, how much of a trap is that for the fans? When you see this, how much do you lick your chops? Explain to me the whole world around fans and their parlays.
Yeah, parlays. All right. Even though I'm going to break up a little bit inside, 2-team parlays are, I hate even to use the word okay, but if you're going to parlay, do a 2-teamer. Anytime you add another team, I'm smiling. because it's just so hard to cash those tickets. And I know people show me their tickets all the time, but if you show me all your tickets from a year, 365 days a year, I can guarantee you it's not a plus, it's a minus. Don't add as many teams. And my biggest thing I like to tell people, and I tell this to my twin brother all the time who doesn't listen to me, just because there's a game on TV does not mean you have to bet it. Sometimes a number is just not right. Sometimes the game is just not right. Sometimes there's too many injuries, weather, whatever. Just because there's a game on TV does not mean you need to push a bet on it.
Raphael, you have no idea that little statement right there. You might have saved somebody an argument with their partner. Maybe have been able to buy them their PlayStation 5 coming up. You have done the Lord's work with that last piece of advice. Honestly, my friend, this has been an absolute treat. I knew it was going to be. I knew when looking just at your resume, your bona fides, that you were going to bring the fire here. But for people here in Chicago, for somebody like you who has so much love for Chicago and somebody, one of us, to be able to do what you're doing, it means a lot. And for you to join us today here on the Sports Cubicle means a lot, because somebody like you, when you're putting this amount of work, this busy time of a season, to sit down with us and educate us and help us, guide us, and it means a lot. And I hope you know that as the time goes on and the sports world is changing, how much is appreciated for people like you to educate us as we try to move forward in this crazy gambling world.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And anytime you need me, you now have my information and stuff like that. I would love to jump on and stuff, because there's always big events, not just football. There's always big events. So come on. So I'm always willing to help people learn about my industry.
Well, last one, really fast, hard hitting. He's Raphael Esparza. He's from Doc Sports. Go to the website and check out all his other work. We're going to link him on the bottom. But this is the hardest question. Feet to the fire. The only thing that matters, it doesn't matter the last 20-something minutes we've done. Is Caleb Williams going to win Rookie of the Year?
He should. He's got the best talent a rookie quarterback has ever had around him in the league. I didn't think he would. I didn't like the pick, but then everything they added around him, I think, and what I'm hearing from camp, he's been really respected by the veterans. He's been listening to all the veterans. He's not a hothead like he was in USC. I think it'd be very interesting. And the Minnesota Vikings, with JJ being out, that puts them in a different belt. So I think the Bears are looking a little bit upwards in my eye.
All right, Chicago, put your ears up. Raphael, do the Bears make the playoffs?
That's a different story. That's a different story. I don't want to go too far. I like their total season wins over a little bit, but so does the betting public. I would say if you bet it, maybe if you have a great number, maybe weeks 14, 15, 16, you can maybe get off on that number, and you'll know what kind of Bears team you have by then. But it's going to be very interesting. They're probably one of those teams I have circled, like, what is this team going to be this year?
A man in my heart. He loves talking sports, talking gambling. He has Han Solo in his background, Wrigley Field right there too. He's Raphael Esparza. He's our friend. Thank you so much, brother, for joining us here on the Sports Cubicle on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. Raphael, thank you, brother.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.